Let's now bring in CTV News U.S. political analyst Eric Ham in the conversation. Eric, thank you for your time. Great to have you on the program. Let's talk about what Donald Trump is saying. Are these truly minor differences as battle lines have been drawn over this bill?
Not at all. In fact, we know that many Republicans who are in blue states where the housing prices are very expensive, they are deeply concerned about the lack of deductions for housing in those states. And so we know some congressmen have been pushing back. In addition to that, this legislation is actually a massive buster of the economy in terms of what it's actually going to do in adding to the overall debt. And so you have a number of members of the House Freedom Caucus who simply cannot get behind it. So it's going to be a very difficult task to bring a lot of these Republicans over the finish line, particularly because the margins are so low. They can only afford to lose about 2 or 3 members. And we know Democrats are unified in not supporting this legislation. So again, Donald Trump was in there twisting arms. There are some who said that he may have actually brought a number over to get the bill towards passage. But when we heard from the House Freedom Caucus, they said they don't believe that Donald Trump did enough to sway Republicans. So this could be a bruising internal battle that we could see play out, not just today, but even when the bill is eventually brought to the floor for a vote.
So this is the situation in the House. What about the Senate?
Well, this legislation will need to get past the House and also in order to get to the Senate. And the Senate is going to be equally difficult because, again, you need at least a 60-vote threshold to get this legislation over the finish line. And because it's a reconciliation bill, you actually will need the votes in order to do so. So this is going to be a very, very hard swing for Republicans. And also, this is Donald Trump's influence that is now on the line. And now Republicans are looking more and more ahead to those potentially bruising midterm election battles that are going to take place next year, particularly given that what we have already seen from Donald Trump's approval rating, it's not the best at the moment.
I'll quickly pivot to the other issue we've been looking at very closely, the talks that Donald Trump had with Vladimir Zelensky and Vladimir Putin over that war in Ukraine and Russia. We know that Marco Rubio has also been talking in front of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee about how all of this is transpiring. Your take on what next with the war, because we're not actually seeing much movement after that phone call in terms of a timeline.
You know, it's so interesting. We have seen from the president that there was a breakthrough on trade with the UK, a breakthrough on trade with China, and now a breakthrough on the war in Ukraine. But still, very little substance in terms of what these breakthroughs actually mean and when do we actually see the tangible results of any of this. And so, yes, there were extensive phone calls that took place yesterday. But when you hear from Russian President Vladimir Putin, he seemed more moderate in his tone and his delivery in terms of what actually happened. So it's still unclear if Donald Trump, again, can get this over the finish line and move it beyond just simple theatrics that we continue to hear from him about what's actually happening.
All right. CTV News U.S. political analyst Eric Ham. Eric, thank you.